40 years ago, my father gave me my first dahlia tubers, and from that very first season when they bloomed, I just love them. Hi, I'm Paula Jaffe, a Marin Master Gardener, and I just love growing dahlias. Dahlias come in so many different colors, 15, and they come in a lot of petal variations and so many sizes, from 2 inches to 12 inches in width. And their height can go up to 7 feet. They're not fussy at all. They're very easy to grow. All they need is water, 6 hours or more of sun a day, and good soil. Dahlia tubers can be bought at nurseries, big box stores, local club sales, and online. And need to buy them in the springtime, obviously, because you're going to be planting them within the next month or so. In the last few years, cuttings have become available, and those can only be bought at Dahlia club sales and online. The large potted plants, which become available in June or July at nurseries and the large big box stores. I don't really advise you to get too many of those, because when you take them out of the pot, you'll find that the roots are totally squeezed together, and because of that, they will not keep blooming usually the whole season. If you have large bloom dahlias, you sacrifice the number of blooms that you're going to get. They tend to have fewer blooms, whereas a small dahlia, maybe this size, you'll have many more blooms on that plant for the season. This is a sample of the black can that I use to plant my dahlias in. And you can see where I've drilled all these extra holes to allow for drainage and for the roots to grow through. Here's some more of the holes on the bottom that I have drilled. Now this hole here that I am seeing now is way too large, because it could easily allow some critter to get into. So if I were to use this can again, I would have to block up this hole. It's an invitation. Wherever you bought your tuber, from a big box store or online, or it's a tuber you grew last year, you treat them all the same. You examine them, make sure that it's not rotted, and it's good if you could see the eyes. And then you just plant them. This is the body, the neck, and then this is the crown up here. And there's some little bumps there. I can see 2 of them, and those are the eyes. The dahlias have been living here all winter. Let's see what's happening. Several of them have sprouted already. We're lucky. Let's take one and see what's going on underground. Very carefully, because you don't want to break anything around the crown. So this sprout has 2 baby sprouts with it. So we're going to divide this tuber so that we can have 2 extra plants. I've just washed this tuber. Now we're going to divide it. It has 7 tubers hanging from the middle. I have to make decisions on how to cut it and divide it. So there's a little nub here that started. So I'll probably cut those 2 together. I always put 2 together so I have 1 for insurance. If you leave the clump in the ground without dividing, eventually your dahlias will get smaller, and you'll have less dahlias, less blooms. because they're too squeezed in. So these two are nice. They're not hanging out, they're attached. It's very important that they be attached and not just hanging by a thread. And the little nub is there, and there's actually another one right there. So you'll probably get 2 stalks off of this tuber, these tubers. Oops, let's see, is this hanging by a thread? Yes, I broke this one. This one's loose now, it's no good. After I wash them, I let them air dry for a couple hours, and then I dip them in this sulfur to prevent them from rotting. Okay, I want to show you some tubers that will not grow dahlias this year. This one looks fine, it has a wonderful crown, but it's rotten. It has that big hole there, and it's just not going to grow. So we wouldn't be planting that, that would be garbage. This one was the cane from last year, and when I pulled it out of the pot, there was nothing there. The tuber had rotted. For whatever reason, it was just wet and rotted. This one looks like a great tuber. Looks like it's going to be perfect, but when you look and try to find the crown, where the eyes and nubs are, there is none. So this thing fell off of the crown of one of the hunks of tubers. And this is also not good and will not produce anything. So here I am at my raised bed that gets at least 6 hours of sun, and I'm digging a hole that's 4 inches deep. The first thing you do is you put the stake in. You don't want to take a chance on ruining your tuber. Okay. The hole's about 4 inches deep. I'm going to put my supplements in that'll help it grow. Then I'm going to cover that up with soil. I'm going to put the tuber into the hole with the crown and neck facing the stake. Yes, the hole is 4 inches deep, but you're not going to fill in the hole until the plant grows. When you see the green sprouts, you can start putting in more soil into the hole until it is level with the rest of the soil. You cover it up and you keep putting the soil until it's level with the soil around it. You must not water. That's probably the most important thing about all of this. You can plant and make it look beautiful, but if you water, you're increasing your chance of having it rot. So you do not water until you see green sprouts. And when you see the green sprouts, you water very little, like with a spritzer. And as it gets bigger, you can increase the amount of water. When the sprouts come up, you must protect them from snails and slugs. And so you have to put out some snail bait. My preferred method of protection is copper rings. And I just take them, put them down like this, and they will protect the dahlia for its whole life. I never have to move them till I clean up in November. When you buy a cutting, it comes in a 4-inch pot, and you need to harden it off after you've purchased it. And you do this by putting it on your windowsill, in your kitchen perhaps, where you can watch it and water it daily. If you've purchased your cutting online, it'll come in a piece of styrofoam, and that you plant that in the 4-inch pot, and then you put it on your windowsill and keep it damp. That's the most important thing about these cuttings, is that they be kept damp. When it has 3 pairs of leaves, that's the time to plant it. You can plant it in a larger pot or directly into the ground. 4 weeks ago, I brought these plants home from the San Francisco Dahlia sale. These are varieties that are not sold at big box stores, so it's a really good idea to go and look for one of those local sales. Today, we're going to plant one. The first thing we do is get the hole ready. Now, the hole is 6 inches deep. Here it is. And we're going to put some goodies in the bottom of it to encourage the roots to grow. And we have some granular fertilizer. And then we have some worm castings that I'm putting in. That'll help the roots. Then we put a little soil in it. Here's the soil, all ready. And then we're going to look at the plant. We want to put 2 leaf pairs under the ground. So we're going to take those leaf pairs off because we want roots to grow from them. 1, 2. Now we're going to plant the plant up to here, covering those 2 nodes. Turn it upside down, put your fingers here to hold the soil, tap it, and see all these nice little roots? It's just a great time to plant this plant. Oh, I forgot to put the stake in. Got to put that in because you don't want to wreck the roots. So we're going to put the stake in right here next to it. And here's some additional soil. So that will take care of the snails and the slugs. I always want to know the name of my plants, so I put in the tag. For 2 weeks, I will hand water this plant. Eventually, I will put on irrigation lines. See, here is the line for that plant already, and it'll go around like this. But for the first 2 weeks, I hand water it so I can keep track of this plant and make sure that it's healthy. Because I have a lot of wind, I put tubes over the plants. So the way I do it, it's like this. So this protects it from the climate. The sun, in case it gets too hot, does not have to have 12 hours of sun a day. 6 hours is just fine, but at my place it gets lots more than 6. So I protect it with this tube. It also keeps away the wind, and that's a big deal at my house. So I keep this on the plant until the plant gets up to the top. But meanwhile, I'm watering it for the 2 weeks, and after that it will get this regular water. But I keep an eye on it until it gets to the top. I consider it fragile until it gets about 8 inches high. Okay, so here's a plant that's ready for topping, according to a lot of the printed matter that you would read online about dahlias. But I like to wait till my plants are a little taller because things can happen to the few branches that you leave. Like at my house, I have a lot of wind, and the wind can easily break one of the branches. I wait until I have probably 5 sets of leaves at least. This plant is ready to be topped. In fact, this plant could have been topped a week ago. It already has buds. Too bad, they've got to go. So you look for the 2 leaves that have new growth on them. These leaves up here don't have any new growth, they don't count. So you go down to the 2 leaves with growth. Here they are with buds. You're going to take that off. Go down the whole stalk to the next set of buds, and then you can cut it like that. That's called topping. Look at this plant. You'll see that there's new growth out of this node, and here are these old leaves. What I do to encourage these new leaves to grow, I take off the old leaves. Now, the plant's water, fertilizer, will have less to water. It doesn't have to keep these old leaves alive with the new ones that you only really care about. Now, I only do one or two on the plant. I don't take off all the leaves and strip it, because you need the leaves to capture the sun and feed the plant. I've just come home from vacation, and there's a lot of work to be done in my dahlia garden. The first thing we have to do is top some of the smaller dahlias that were not topped before I left. Here's an example of one. You see how this is just grown straight. Now we want to get branches to grow out of it. We top to increase the size of our plant until we get more blooms. It also makes the plant bushy instead of tall and skinny. When you top it, then you have these two leaves coming out, and they'll each be branches. Now this budding is done to give more strength to the bloom and to make the bloom larger. So the top of the plant, you see a big bud and two little buds. You need to take off the two little buds to increase the size of the larger bloom. And you can do that with your fingers very easily. This plant is falling over and needs to be tied to the stake. So I'm always keeping a roll of string and scissors in the garden at this time of year, because I have lots of tying to do as they grow. So here's the string I cut. I just go around it to support it. I don't have to tie it in tight, because that'll constrict the growing. So I make an 8 knot. I just crisscross them before I tie it. And then I make a bow. And the bow is my signature. And it also allows you to readjust your tie using the same string. Okay. On this bush, the leaves are really close to the ground, and that really welcomes bugs and critters up on the plants. These leaves eventually will get brown anyway. So it's a good idea to get rid of some of them. It lets the energy go up to the rest of the plant also. Doing leaf pruning also improves air circulation. It lets the air up into your plant from the bottom. My dahlias are watered on an automatic watering system. They get watered 2 times a week for 20 minutes each time. And then I go around during the mornings with my trusty hose, and I watch for them to see which ones might need a little more. I also can notice which ones have too much water and might be getting soggy. So that I also want to prevent. To prevent mildew, you water correctly, not from the top. You water at the base. You space your plants out so that the air can get around them. That's one of the reasons you do leaf pruning, because you want the air to get in. But you can see in my garden over here, I've got some plants that are really close together, and I might have to cut off a branch to allow more air into them. When you first planted your dahlia, you might have put in some starter formula that would make for strong roots and strong green growth. But now you've got all the strong roots and the green growth, and you want blooms. So there are formulas out there that promote big blooms and lots of blooms. And these formulas have a large number in the center of the 3 numbers on the package. Sometimes the number could be 50, and sometimes it's 3 if it's an organic fertilizer, and that's what I would recommend that you use. The first thing you do when you deadhead is make sure that your scissors are sharp. Now, I'm going to deadhead this dahlia. I'm going to take it down with 2 leaves. That is the most important part. On this dahlia, you can already see where your next blooms are coming. So you're going to take it down to right in between them. And these 2 leaves, everything you cut off your dahlia must have 2 leaves. Otherwise, your dahlia will stop producing blooms. I'm going to cut some dahlias now to take in the house for my table. And it's the same rule as deadheading. You always cut 2 leaves with your flower. So here I go. I'm cutting one of these gorgeous red ones. And I have a bucket here with an inch of warm water in it. And I'll put that in, and then I'll go cut some more. Let's see. Now, dahlias do not continue to open once you cut them. So you have to cut them when they're at the stage that you like for your bouquet. Now, when I take them in, I usually put them in the garage and let them sit and let the water cool off for an hour. Usually takes about an hour for it to get to room temperature. And then when it's at room temperature, then you can just cut them, make them shorter, do whatever you want. If you want to float them, you can cut them off way at the top, and they'll be ready, and they'll last for about 5 days in your bouquet. If you want them to last a little longer, you might take them out every day and just snip a little bit off the bottom and then put them back in the water. You wait for the dahlia stalks to turn brown. But in our zone, you can wait and wait and wait. And eventually, by Thanksgiving, I just cut them all down to about 6 inches. You need to store your dahlias in a temperature of 40 to 60 degrees. Most people take their tubers out of the soil, and they're storing their plant as a clump of tubers. Growing your dahlias in pots makes it very easy at the end of the year to just pull them out. I group them all together in an area that I can put a tarp over. And so they have to be covered because the stalks are hollow. The rain will get down the stalks into the tubers that have been made by this time. And these are your plants for next year. These tubers represent your plants for next year. And by the way, you never carry your clump of tubers around by the stalks. You always have your hand at the bottom, because if you break off the stalks when you're carrying them, then it's goodbye to your next year's plants, because most likely the stalks will separate and taking the eye with it. That about does it, and I hope that you have gorgeous dahlias this year and for many more years.